Recording in progress.
Right, let's start off with the second part to this particular unit, that is theories of media and influences on media content, right? Initially, we'd start off with the theories of the media, and the two theories that we would be taking into account over here would be number one, the pluralist theory, and the second one would be the Marxist theory. Now, about this pluralist theories and Marxist theories, we have spoken about them in quite a detail, right? When we started off this unit, I had given you all an idea about how we do not use the functionist perspective over here in media while discussing media, while covering media. And instead of using the functionist perspective or the functionist theory, we use the pluralist theory instead, right? And number two, we had spoken about the Marxist theories as well, and I tried giving you all an idea of how Marxists believe the media is owned and controlled by the rich, the elite. Now, while doing Marxism, I'd like to discuss the new Marxist theories as well. So, taking a start here, when we starting off with unit 6.2.1, who controls the media? And we discussed there are certain competing theories that we'll be taking into account over here. The sociological debate over where control of the media lies in democratic societies is mainly between pluralists and Marxists. Now, we're talking about, not to miss out on the word democratic societies, right? Societies where democracy prevails. And I wouldn't. I mean, we have exceptions. We have exceptions like North Korea. Things are very different over there. But over here, for now, we're taking into account democratic societies. So, is mainly between pluralists and Marxists. Although Marxists are divided among themselves over exactly where control lies. So, like I said, we'd start off with traditional Marxism and then we'd hop on towards uh, uh, new Marxism. But for today, we would be taking into account pluralism, only pluralism alone, and pluralism is the goal that we have. For now, we have a limited amount of time left available for us for the day. But then again, I would like to bring pluralist theories to an end because we have discussed this in quite a lot of detail earlier. So starting off with the pluralist comes from the word plural. Plural means more than one. So pluralist theories of the media derive from pluralist theories of power in democratic societies. Now, pluralist theories of power, the idea के पार देखिए डेमोक्रेसी का जब हम टर्म यूज करते हैं तो डेमोक्रेसी इन अदर वर्ड्स इज व्हेन एवरीवन हैज से राइट एंड डेमोक्रेटिक सोसाइटीज के अंदर पावर दे से थ्योरेटिकली एटलीस्ट लोगों के पास होता है क्योंकि लोग डिसाइड कर रहे होते हैं ठीक है तो pluralist theories of power in democratic societies, for example, Robert Dahl's study of the USA, Who Governs in 1961. These argue that political power is spread out among a wide range of competing interests. So, political power is spread out among a wide range of competing interest groups representing different sections of the society: businesses, trade unions, religious organizations, pressure groups, voluntary organizations, and so on. None of which are powerful enough, this is again important, none of which are powerful enough to dominate the political decision making process. So, this in itself, the part that I've highlighted to quite an extent, explains the basic idea, the basic notion behind pluralist theories. Okay? Taking it ahead, this could be used later as a summary by you all, and I want everyone, as we're done with this part, it will take us around 20 minutes. I mean, that's the time that we are left with. But in 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so, once we're done with this part, I'd want everyone to get back to this and give this a read so that you could have a look at the pluralist perspective or pluralist theory in a more summarized manner. Taking a start, for pluralists, a similar picture applies to the media, right? Like I had said, हम लोग pluralist theories of power को use कर रहे हैं to help ourselves understand the pluralist nature or the pluralist theories in terms of religion, in terms of media. I'm sorry. For pluralists, a similar picture applies to the media landscape in democratic societies. Not only are there a variety of mediums, have a look at these dots that I've made, right? These are the points that we've been discussing. Not only are there a variety of mediums, see, pluralism, हमारे पास plurality है in terms of mediums as well. आज हमारे पास television है, I mean, हमेशा से, as in, it's been a while. Television है, radio है, print formats है, films है, internet and so on. But within each sector, there are companies that compete with each other. For instance, even if we talk about television, Pakistan ke andar aap dekh le, Pakistan ke andar you have ARY, you have Geo TV, you have Express News, you have Hum Network, so on and so forth. So these companies, they compete with each other for audiences. Indeed, for pluralist readers, viewers and listeners are the real power holders. Now, why is it that we're saying viewers and readers are the real power holders? That's because they're the ones who decide what they want to watch. How long do they want to watch? And of course, keeping in mind, we have a lot of companies that compete with each other, even if you talk about the same platform, right? Similar platform की हम बात करते हैं कि टेलीविजन की बात कर लें भाईजान, सीधी बात है, अगर आपको किसी पर्टिकुलर टेलीविजन चैनल या नेटवर्क का कंटेंट पसंद नहीं आता, you have all the reasons to hop onto another. And अगर आप जैसे और लोग भी कहीं हैं, there is a possibility that the media channel or the television channel that is not catering to the needs of the end user would eventually be out of business. They'd eventually be out of business because they did not listen to, or they did not cater to the requirements of the end user. Could be a listener, could be a viewer, so on and so forth, a reader. Clear here? Now, indeed, for pluralists, readers, viewers, and listeners are the real power holders, because ultimately it is they who choose which media messages to consume, which TV programs to watch, which television, which magazine to buy, which social media to sign up to, and so on. Now, with the passage of time, I get to hear this from kids or individuals typically, I mean, the younger generation more, they have started moving on from Facebook to Instagram, from Facebook to Snapchat. Clear here? Now, which social media to sign up to, and so on. If they do not like the products that media owners were making available to them, or if they suspected the media product was biased one way rather than another, the potential audience would respond by not consuming the product. And if they're not consuming the product, that particular product may go out of business. That particular media company may go out of business. Do we get this? ये सब हम पहले डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, ठीक है बेटा? As John Whale in 1977 puts it in relation to the press, it is readers who determine the character of newspaper. Power, then, according to pluralists, lies with the consumer or audience rather than with the owners or media professionals, right? This is in total contrast. This is in total contrast to what the Marxists believe in, right? According to the Marxist perspective, which we would, inshallah, in the next class discuss in detail. The Marxist perspective believes there are handful of powerful people, the bourgeois. They're the ones who own media corporations. They're the ones who own huge multinational, transnational media corporations, media organizations. And they're so powerful that they show people what they want people to see, right? Look at the contrast over here. Look at this huge difference between the Marxist perspective and the pluralist perspective. Clear? The media has no choice. Now, I'm getting back to the pluralist perspective over here. The media has no choice but to give the public what it wants, because they know for a fact if they're not giving the public what the public wants to see, wants to view, wants to watch, wants to consume, eventually they'd go out of business, right? Moreover, pluralists argue that the rationale for the increasing concentration of media ownership, देखें, Marxist एक और point ये भी use करते हैं, Marxist कहते हैं जनाब आपके पास media ownership concentrate होती जा रही है, right? आपके सामने भी we spoke about Alphabet Incorporation owning, I mean, in the last topic that we were doing, we had spoken about the Alphabet Incorporation owning Google, or Google का subsidiary YouTube है. So they're all interconnected. Likewise, if we talk about Facebook, Facebook owns WhatsApp, Facebook owns Instagram as well. So this concentration of ownership that the Marxists keep on focusing on, emphasizing on, right? So moving on, pluralists argue that the rationale for the increasing concentration of media ownership described in the previous unit is essentially economic rather than political or ideological. अब Marxists कहते हैं कि इस पूरे के पीछे एक political ideology है, इस पूरे के पीछे एक ideological mindset है, right? Ideological mindset, according to the Marxist perspective, right? It is a message, it's a mindset that these rich want the want a layman, want the general population to believe in. According to the pluralist, fine. अगर आप concentration of media ownership की बात करें तो media ownership concentrate हो रही है. But what if we emphasize on the role economy plays over here? हम इस possibility को क्यों ignore करें कि जनाब Facebook ने Instagram को इसलिए take over किया या WhatsApp को इसलिए take over किया because of the amount of money they were generating, because they were profitable businesses. And the more profitable businesses you own, the more money you the more money you're making. Clear? So pluralists focus more on the economic rather than the political and ideological factors playing the role in terms of determining what is to be owned. Clear? They argue that media products are costly to produce. Concentration of ownership is aimed at maximizing audience size in order to reduce costs and to attract advertising revenue. Right? Now, this is a video that I shared on a group yesterday by Chomsky. I believe it was a 7-8 minute video. If you haven't watched it, I'd want you to watch it, right? It's an amazing video. It would give you quite an insight into how the Marxists see. I mean, you'd see how whatever we're studying right now is very different from what Chomsky believed in. Clear? So, concentration of ownership is aimed at maximizing audience size in order to reduce costs and to attract advertising revenue. The globalization of the media and the conglomerates that have resulted from this are also merely attempts at finding new audiences in order to increase profits, right? So the more the merrier, the more businesses you own, the more audience you'd have, the more audiences you'd have, the more chances there are of you and your organization being able to generate money. Clear? The key line over here is let's focus more on economy than the political and ideological aspects, according to the pluralists again, pluralists, rather than covert efforts to spread, say, American ways of life across the globe. अब ये जो सारी चीज लिखी हुई है आप आगे Marxist perspective के नीचे पढ़ोगे. See, this says rather than. That means pluralists do not believe in this. However, there are other theories who have firm belief in this. Clear? Indeed, pluralists argue that it is practically impossible for owners to interfere in media content. Right? It's practically impossible for owners to interfere in media content because the businesses are economically far too complex. Now, again, to be able to understand this pluralist stance over here, it's pretty important that we could compare it with the Marxist view. According to the Marxist perspective, owners have direct control. Owners keep a direct check on what is shown, how it is shown, for how long it is to be shown, whose side has to be taken, who side is not to be taken, what is there set for agenda, what is it to be portrayed, what is it that is not newsworthy and should not be brought in front of the public. Clear? So, according to the pluralist perspective, again, Marxism को मैं pluralism से compare करता हुआ चल रहा हूँ ताकि आप लोगों को बेहतर समझ में आ सके. एक आप लोग क्या है? No, we're studying this under the heading of pluralist perspective. मैं आपको समझाने के लिए यहाँ पे देखिए सिर्फ इतना लिखा हुआ है. Indeed, pluralists argue that it is practically impossible for owners to interfere in media content. यही चीज Marxists कहते हैं कि no, it is the other way around. Owners do have the intervention. Owners intervene. Especially अगर हम रूपर्ट मर्डोक की बात करते हैं तो हम लोग अक्सर मार्क्सिज्म पढ़ाते हुए रूपर्ट मर्डोक की एग्जांपल देते हैं that there are several instances where it is, I mean, the public knows that, I mean, it's out and everyone knows that Murdoch, they say, has his direct intervention in terms of what is to be shown, how it is to be shown. And if you remember, I'd give you an example of the war on terror, on the role that Murdoch had played and his company had played, that changed the ideology of individuals. They changed the way people saw how a war on terror by the American government is a necessity. So, do you get this now? Indeed, pluralists argue that it is practically impossible for owners to interfere in media content because the businesses are economically economically far too complex. Whale, for example, argues that the media owners have global problems of trade and investment to occupy their mind. Why would they worry about what is to be shown, how it is to be shown? All, for that matter, they care about is economic growth, right? Satisfied customers, satisfied consumers means more of advertisers. More of advertisers means more of money that they're making. Clear? Little do they care about what is shown, how it is to be shown, as long as it's doing its work by attracting more of advertisers. Pluralist ये believe करते हैं, ठीक है? And so allegedly do not have the time to think about the day-to-day detailed running of the media businesses or the everyday content of the newspaper or the television program. Clear? In addition, many democratic societies have a public service broadcasters. Like, for instance, BBC is an example of a public service broadcaster that apparently is run independent of the state. If it is running independent of the state, if it is running without government intervention, okay, so it doesn't really have any reason to be biased as long as it's catering to the needs of the end user, the consumer. All is well. Clear? So, in addition, many democratic societies, like in Pakistan, we have PTV. We know this. Clear? So, they have public service broadcasters that are formally independent of the state and required by the charters to display due impartiality. Right? They are supposed to be impartial and not take sides with any in the reporting of matters of public policy or political or industrial controversy. For example, the World Service of the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, the first public service broadcasters, is widely respected around the world for its objectivity, right? For being not biased, unbiased, and has provided the blueprint for many subsequent PSBs. PSB क्या है? Very good. Here you go. ठीक है बेटा? So this has provided the blueprint or the initial plan or the design plan. The BBC को देख के और भी democratic societies के अंदर public service broadcasting शुरू हो गई है. Pluralists see PSB as an additional source of media diversity, right? An additional source of media diversity, or in other words, this has, if anything, enhanced media diversity and a counterweight to any potential bias in the commercial sector. कि अगर किसी तरीके से potential कोई bias होगा commercial sector के अंदर, तो the PSBs would be would be another option that the end user consumer would be having, ताकि वो जो the word over here is counterweight, to balance it out. ठीक है? अगर आपके पास commercial sector के अंदर biasness आपको नजर आ रही है, तो उस biasness को cater करने के लिए, उस biasness को cover up करने के लिए, right? उसको compensate करने के लिए, उस biasness को आपके पास PSPs है. Clear here? Now, this question we have in our examination October-November 2021. Media content is influenced by the editors and journalists evaluate the view. Okay, now I'm not saying कि इस question का total content हमारे पास pluralism or Marxism or neo-Marxism के अंदर है. Nonetheless, quite a lot of what is required. Have a look at this one. Look at this. Look at what I'm highlighting now. Highlighting in pink. See. तो इसको आंसर करने के लिए हमें पर्सपेक्टिव्स की जरूरत पड़ेगी. ठीक है? दिस इज एन इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. इसको आंसर करने के लिए हमें पर्सपेक्टिव्स की जरूरत पड़ेगी और पर्सपेक्टिव्स हम आज पढ़ रहे हैं. एंड बीइंग स्पेसिफिक, हम लोग आज प्लूरलिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव पढ़ रहे हैं. ठीक है? तो प्लूरलिज्म in relation to this question can be used over here. So since this question is here, I might as well show you. The content as well. I share the file with you. Okay. ठीक है? And then arguments against the same. So see, there are different perspectives. You have the Marxist perspective, feminist perspective, pluralist perspective, and what we be discussing. Let me just read this out for you real quick. Pluralist theory states that the power in relation to the media is fragmented with different groups. it's split into different groups in society, each having some influence. Audiences, for example, must have their interests taken into account by media. Organizations, to some extent, or sales of media products will be adversely affected. Advertisers have some influence too, as they provide vital funding for the media producers. Government is another social agency competing to exercise control over the media. So, like I said, this content that we're studying today can be used over here, but then again, ये मैं नहीं कहूँगा कि totally जो कुछ हम आज पढ़ रहे हैं वो इस question का answer है, right? A 35-mark question, and we've discussed how a typical 35-mark question is marked differently in terms of AO1, AO2, AO3. Right, there's a separate file that I've shared with you all in terms of this as well. Right, taking it ahead. Finally, the growth of the new media. Now, the growth of new media is again another point that is used by the pluralists to further advocate or support their idea of media diversity. Right? अब जब हम बात करते हैं about the growth of new media, see, new media ने आपके ऑप्शंस को और ज्यादा वाइड कर दिया, आपके पास रेंज और ज्यादा न्यू मीडिया की वजह से बढ़ गई है. आज आपके पास जो ऑप्शंस पहले थे वो ऑप्शंस कई गुना ज्यादा हैं. क्लियर? नाउ फाइनली द ग्रोथ ऑफ द न्यू मीडिया इज सीन एज opening up an even greater range of choice of content with every conceivable taste and shade of opinion catered for on the World Wide Web. There are numerous apps along with they being traditional media too. The range of options have, if anything, increased. So the more options you have, this particular point could be used in support of the pluralist perspective. Clear? Let's quickly evaluate this before we wrap this up. Evaluation over here. A number of issues can be raised in relation to the pluralist theory. One, just how diverse are the media in terms of range of views? Critics argue that the media operate within a consensus band. Now, let me explain. We cannot disagree to this. Today, you have a lot of different media companies. Today, you have a lot of different media products that are there for you to be viewed, to be consumed. What if, like, let me repeat, what if they all have more or less the same thing to say? They all have more or less the same views to put in front of the public. भाईजान फिर तो जो भी आपके पास डाइवर्सिटी वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ थ्योरेटिकली रह जाती है. वो तो आपके पास डाइवर्सिटी सिर्फ और सिर्फ apparently apparently you have a lot of diversity. For instance, ARY network के let's say 5 channels हैं. अगर पांचों के पांचों एक ही आइडियोलॉजी पे रन करते हैं तो फिर किस तरह की डाइवर्सिटी हुई आपके पास? अगर आपके पास अगर आप इंटरनेट की न्यू मीडिया की बात करते हैं, फेसबुक, इंस्टाग्राम, what's the third one? WhatsApp, right? ये सारे के सारे they're owned by the same person. What sort of diversity do you have? Likewise, News Corporation, Rupert Murdoch, right? The channel, the companies that I showed you, Murdoch founded. Here. Look at this. Apparently, as it looks like there are so many different options you have. Little did you know they were all owned by one. In that case, what sort of diversity do you have? Likewise, YouTube, Google, both owned by the same company. What diversity do you think you have then? But I naam diversity फिर तो आपके पास रह गई सिर्फ और सिर्फ. Taking it ahead, just how diverse are the media in terms of the range of views presented? Critics argue that the media operates within a consensus band, which largely excludes radical views. Moreover, there may be a range of viewpoints, but these viewpoints may be skewed in a particular direction. For example, the press in the UK is predominantly right-wing. It supports a particular political ideology that favors the rich, that favors the elite. Clear? फिर तो वही बात होगी ना, कंसेंसस बैंड वाली फिर तो वही बात हो गई कि आप एक्सक्लूड कर रहे हो रेडिकल व्यूज को. डाइवर्सिटी तो है लेकिन सारे के साथ सारे मिले में. Okay, we just scrutinizing pluralist perspective. ठीक है? Number 2, there's plenty of evidence that owners of the press are not neutral when it comes to the editorial line taken by the newspapers. Like I said, talk about Rupert Murdoch. Google it. You'd come across the instances when He directly intervened. Indirect to chhod hi dein aap. Number 3, do the public get what they want? I mean, is it so? Question mark. Because this is what pluralists, what do you call it, focus on. They believe the public does eventually get what they want, or they come to want what they're given. What is given to you? देखिए ना, आप कोई चीज आप जब कुछ choose करोगे तो you choose from a range of options you have. What if the options that are given to you are pretty limited? Moreover, what if the options that are given to you, they more or less all operate on the same principles? If they're all operating on the same principles, what sort of diversity do you have then? Get it? Taking it ahead. PSVs are rarely completely immune from government pressure. Now, let me give you a local example first. PTV, Pakistan Television Network. कोई भी सिटिंग गवर्नमेंट हो उसकी सपोर्ट में बात करती हुई सिटिंग गवर्नमेंट, आज आपकी गवर्नमेंट चेंज होगी, अगली गवर्नमेंट होगी, उसकी सपोर्ट में बात करेगी. It would always show you give you a very gloomy and an appealing and attractive and a very optimistic picture of how your country is been running or is being running by whatever the sitting government is. Likewise, थोड़ी देर पहले, while discussing the pluralist perspective, we have spoken about how BBC works independently, how BBC is impartial, how BBC is seen as highly objective, unbiased. It's setting a precedent for others. There was a blueprint, an example set that others follow. Again, do you know BBC, like I said, now I'd want to use the word apparently because I'm gauging or evaluating the pluralist perspective. BBC कहते हैं independent है, लेकिन BBC की जो लाइसेंस फीस है वो तो कलेक्ट करके दे. अगर गवर्नमेंट कलेक्ट करके दे रहा है आपको लाइसेंस फीस, तो डोंट यू थिंक आपके पास कितने चेक पॉइंट्स हैं जहां पे गवर्नमेंट का प्रेशर आपके ऊपर एक्सर्ट किया जा सकता है? गवर्नमेंट अगर बोले नहीं लाइसेंस फीस को रिड्यूस करते हैं, कहां से बीबीसी के पास पैसे आएंगे, कहां से वो रन करेगी इंडिपेंडेंटली? क्लियर? दिस वाज जस्ट वन एग्जांपल. तो PS public broadcasters are rarely completely immune from government pressure. UK, for example, it is the government which determines the cost of the TV license, and it can use this as a lever to pressurize the BBC. It's more like you go against us and ... right? The last one. Does the concentration of media ownership really not matter? According to Tim Berners-Lee, have a look over here. Taking it ahead. According to Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the web, writing in 2018, argues that what was once a rich selection of blogs and websites has been compressed under the powerful weight of a few dominant platforms. Right? Concentration of media ownership again. The range that you once used to have, आज देखिए ना, एक टाइम था आपके पास WhatsApp, Instagram, ये अलग-अलग कंपनीज थी, तो प्रॉब्ली अलग-अलग माइंडसेट होगा. जब मालिक ही एक तो नहीं है, मतलब if you get the point that I'm trying to make, if it's the same organization, if it's the same company that is owning them, it's the same ideology that has been run through, right? This concentration of power creates a new set of gatekeepers, allowing a handful of platforms to control which ideas and opinions are seen and shared, right? So a few points that we used to link to discuss the pluralist perspective. See, next in line, we have Marxist theories. Marxist theories, like I said, we discuss this in the next class. So this is, I mean, this could help you understand the pluralist perspective too. If you want to give this a look, I'd want you all to give this a look. And if there's anything that you'd want to discuss, you might as well bring it back to me. This again is a summary of the pluralist perspective. This has a couple of criticisms as well. So pluralism, like I said, all the pluralist theories, we've discussed them earlier in a lot of detail. Today, this is what we could do. considering the amount of time we had. But then again, I feel we have catered to it the way we should have catered to it. And that is pretty much it for the day. Take good care of yourselves. Stay happy, healthy, safe, and protected. Stay humble, spread positivity, spread smiles, and Allah Hafiz.